Good evening. Is it Pika? I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, it's Pika.
Okay, it's really nice to meet you.
Likewise, nice to meet
I
you too.
want to thank you for taking the time to make sure you had all of your paperwork done before our initial appointment. It makes things a lot easier. Did you have any specific questions about anything you filled out?
Not at the moment.
Okay, so you understood the informed consent, you understand all of your rights as a potential client.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, great. One thing I do want to go over with you is the confidentiality piece. I'm sure you're familiar with confidentiality, but there are some limitations with that. So basically, everything that we talk about is going to be between me and you unless you give me written consent that I can share it with somebody else.
Okay.
The limits to that, though, are is if you're hurting yourself, you're thinking about or are hurting somebody else, or somebody is hurting you. You understand all that?
I understand.
Yes, I am a mandated reporter, so I would have to like seek further help or assistance if something like that came up.
Understood.
Okay. So, I did get all of your background, so I got your intake questionnaire, and it sounds like you've been kind of going through it. There's been a lot going on, and so I would like to start by asking you what you hope to seek out of meeting with me and beginning services.
Well, the main concern that I came here for was because I'm trying to seek like mostly because I've been feeling a lot of anger and sadness. So that's basically what I'm here for.
Okay. I'm hearing anger and sadness. Do you have any idea where that might be stemming from? And also, could you tell me when that began?
Well, this actually began about like 2 years ago.
Mm,
Sustained a severe basketball injury, and it led me to a lot of chronic pain. And because of that chronic pain, it led me to taking too many pills.
okay. Yeah, that's a lot. That would affect anyone. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it affected my whole relationship, as well with my wife and my kids and stuff. So
Okay. Do you still currently feel like you're taking too many pain pills? Like, is that something that you're concerned with and would like some help with that as well?
to be honest, yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm here for, to
Okay.
seek that help.
Okay. Great. Okay. We can definitely work on that. Um, Now, going back to the injury, when that happened, was that something that you feel like you got to process through?
Well, because of taking many pills, like I felt like my body was numb. So I really didn't think, it would affect me until now that I'm seeing that it's affecting me, towards the long run for taking so many pills. Just like I really feel like I'm careless about everything and not really focusing on what to do, day by
Mm,
day. So
okay.
yeah, I'm just
Um,
stuck on my sadness
yeah,
and my
and
anger, my frustration out of nowhere.
right, understand that. Now, you mentioned your relationship with your wife and your kids being affected by all of this too. In what ways?
Well, to start off first, like we come from like a low income, you
Mm,
know, so that has affected me and all that, just kind of affects it, with everybody, and besides me taking pills, it's just like got me to a point where I don't even want to go to work anymore, you know, doesn't give me the energy to even go out with the family,
yeah.
they're I feel like I'm isolating myself, in this little room, on my own.
Would you be interested in or find it helpful if we could look into some like resources for you that could help with like seeing different doctors or different services and whatnot that would fit your guys's like financial situation that would be either low cost or at no cost at all? Would be that, do you think that would be helpful as well?
I mean, anything right now would be very helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
My wife, she's been working multiple jobs just to support the family, and it's been creating a lot of stress and resentment in our marriage,
Yeah.
So anything that could benefit, in helping us out, would be a lot appreciated.
Okay, great. Definitely do that. And then what about the kids? How are things with you and the kids?
Well, the children have become very more like withdrawn
Mm,
and exhibited behavior problems at school, because of the instability and tension at home,
okay.
that I've been bringing. And
Right.
that like I said, that because of all that, like it happened 2 years ago, and now it's just like I'm not working, I'm being like at home, being taken care of by the wife, and that's not that wasn't me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm used to making my own money, and I'm used to providing. I'm used to being provided to the family, and now it's just a lot different. Now it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Things have turned, and it's become a total chaos at home. By
Of
her
course.
being able to, by her being or her having to provide everything for us,
Yeah.
you know, and that's not how I grew up.
Yeah. I understand that. That's a very common in a lot of cultures actually for that to be hard and for that to be something that you struggle with, like being a provider normally. Something that I'm think that might be helpful to you guys is maybe you could do some family counseling. Um, Kind of just something you guys could do together, and it gives everybody an opportunity to kind of like talk about what they've been feeling and processing too. And look at you're already an example here right now, being willing to talk to me. That's the first step. You're going to be that example for the rest of the family. So you really should like give yourself an applause for that. It's not easy to do when that's not something that you're used to in your
Mhm.
background.
Yeah, and because of that, I feel like life isn't really enjoyable anymore. I feel like the next step is just, getting a divorce now, and that's how the same feeling that she's feeling.
Is that something that you want?
Well, not really.
Okay.
No, I don't, not at all. That's why I came here to seek for help and, try to find some other way out.
Understand. I understand. Okay. Well, with that, is there anything else that you would like specifically for me to know that might be beneficial to like how we can proceed with treatment planning for you and how I can be most effective in helping you?
Well, I would take into consideration a lot like the marriage counseling,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I would like
Mm-hmm.
to get that as well, so that way she can also be able to help me out as well, when I'm not here getting counseling by you guys or by you, and she can see the side of you of what I'm facing,
Mm.
and I don't feel left alone at home and stuff because that's how regularly I'm feeling right now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So like that's something we could bring her into like a session every once in a while if you're comfortable with that after we've like established our rapport and our relationship and I've really gotten to like see where we can go and how we can move to best benefit you. Or also I could always refer you guys to another counselor so it's like someone completely unbiased that has no experience with seeing you personally, has no experience seeing her personally. So it'd be just for like marriage counseling. So that's also an option. But I am comfortable with either way. I can be unbiased in that type of situation.
Will there also be like some sort of like kid counseling, like for my children?
Absolutely. So there's usually quite a few resources through their schools usually, but I have plenty that I could provide you guys with too that would be free services
Yeah, that
also.
would be helpful.
Yeah,
Like I said, it would come from a income. Well, right now I'm facing like low income, so anything that I'm able to obtain, for free or whatever or at low cost would be a lot better for us.
absolutely. No problem. Um, so now that we've got like what you'd really like to focus on, kind of like we've touched base on that. I just want to get a little bit more of like your background, just you personally. So any medical concerns I should know about, or any previous substance use, anything like that that might be beneficial to going into your treatment planning.
Well, no, not after my accident.
Mm,
Before that, I was good. Like I said, I used to just work a lot and then nonstop work, and I was the one providing for the family. But after the accident, I just became very um irresponsible. So,
mm.
but because of the accident, that's what really just brought me here, and this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah, you went through a trauma.
Hmm.
You went through a trauma, so try not to be so hard on yourself. You experienced something that you didn't expect to experience. It was traumatic, and you haven't had this happen before, so you don't know how to deal with it. And it's okay to need help, and it's good that you did come to seek some, right? Um, and then also any medical history I should know about, any chronic illness, anything like that.
No, like I
Mm,
said, it's just like chronic pain that I have right now, just towards the accident and
okay.
the injury I had, but during that, no,
Okay. And prior to now, have you ever had any like mental health diagnosis? Like you ever been diagnosed with anxiety or depression or anything like that?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah. No official diagnosis.
No,
It's pretty common, you know. It sounds like before now you're kind of, okay and not too much was going on before the accident. So no worries about that.
that's why
Okay.
this is all new to me. Like I don't
Yeah.
know how to deal with it. I don't know how to like actually come out of it. Um, it's very hard to seek help. I'm not the type of person to ask someone for help, but it got to the point where, like I said, I'm almost facing divorcing. So I just don't want to get to that point, where I'm actually getting divorced and be able to not see my kids anymore or have my wife waiting for me at home.
Yeah. Yeah. You're overwhelmed, but we'll work on that. It'll get better.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Okay. And then last question, based on what you're thinking you might need, would you like to be seen weekly, bi-weekly? Do you have any idea of that? If you don't yet, that's fine. We can touch base on that later. But I want to make sure I get you scheduled.
Yeah, if possible, I mean, the sooner I can get seen, the better for me and the family,
Okay,
you
yeah,
know.
we'll do weekly then for now. If that has to change later, then no big deal. Um, just keep me posted on like availability and all of that, and we will get it going.
Okay. I
I'm
appreciate your
excited.
help.
I'm excited to be working with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.